What's up, guys? Ronin here. Listen, a lot of guys have very low self-esteem these days. And it's very difficult to... There's two ways to look at it, right? You can look into how this happened, who did this, society, emotional manipulation. Maybe you were a target of somebody. Maybe, it was a combination of things in your life, in your family. It could have been a girlfriend who never made you feel, that you were worthy. Maybe you didn't make enough money for her or some bullshit, right? It's like you were fine before you met her, but all of a sudden you're this like total loser, And this is what happens. This is really what happens in like family court or when you get a girlfriend or a wife. Is basically you're like a great guy until you have a baby, and then you in child custody, all of a sudden everything you do is questioned. You're like basically, and you're seen as a failure or a loser, right? Now that judgment never happens when you are single, right? It never ever happens. So it suddenly happens like boom, all of a sudden, you're this bad guy, or you're this guy who is not doing well enough, or this or that. Now, the thing is, when you start all these things, you're accepted, you're fine, the way you are is great, right? After you sign that contract, after you get in that relationship, that's when suddenly the goalposts change. They shift, right? And they keep shifting, and it's always to your detriment, right? You're always the guy who has to what is the new goal now that I have to reach? What is the way that I can be a healthy, normal person again? Like, what do I need to do? And you start to look outside yourself, right? There's a lot of things that would cause a guy to have low self-esteem these days. And I don't want to go too much into it. I want to talk about if you do want to raise your self-esteem as a man, how to think about it. And I have a very unique Ronin way of looking at it, and it really works for me. So let me just throw it at you here. Okay, so let's say that you have some kind of feeling in situations. Okay, now the complicated thing about self-esteem is that everybody needs to work on their self-esteem. Like, everybody has ups and downs, highs and lows. You have periods in your life when you have a lot of self-esteem. You have periods when you don't. You have times when you're sick. There's a lot of different factors that go into. Basically, self-esteem is something that is not a constant. It's always changing, and it's something that you as a man, you want to start to get control of how you see yourself and how you not let other people, so other people's reaction, society's reaction, to create the esteem inside yourself, where you start to say, where you really decide it for yourself. And the difficult thing is this is so, it's so freaking complex, because in some ways, every man has total, what do you call it? Like, he decides everything for himself inside his own mind. He's like, I decide everything. But when it comes to subconscious, or almost think of your mind as like a BIOS. I don't know if you guys know about computer guys, right? You have underneath Windows, let's say with Windows, you have a BIOS that runs. It's by a company called Phoenix. They used to be my client, so I'm pretty familiar with them. And what it is, it's so when you program a computer, when you program Windows, you're not in the BIOS. The BIOS is underneath Windows. So it's like a given that you don't even question. It's just the way the computer operates. And that's how you program to make the computer do something, is based on the fundamental operating system underneath the operating system. That's essentially the way to think about it. Okay, I don't know if that's the best explanation, but basically the BIOS, okay? The BIOS underneath your conscious mind. So you have the same type of thing. And what that BIOS is beliefs that you have about the world. So when we're little, when we're growing up, we develop beliefs about how the world is. And these become the BIOS in our mind. whether when we're infants, when we're watching our parents, we're watching people, we're making decisions, but those later on become like a fish in water where we cannot even see them. They just become a natural, it's like right or left, up or down. You know what I mean? It's like we just, and then we decide we know which way is right and left. And then, what are we going to do if we go right? It's like you don't even think about it, right? There's a lot of things in your mind about the goodness of people, the goodness of yourself, the way things are, the way life is, how you should think about money, how you should think about love, what you should think about friendship, what you should think about trust. There's a lot of things in that BIOS in your mind, and all those things affect your self-concept, your self-esteem. So let's say, for example, that you have a feeling at times, again, none of this stuff is constant, and you guys are like, oh, I have really high self-esteem, or I have really low self-esteem. Nobody is really like that. That's the complicated thing. We all have times when we're up, down, all around, and even a guy who's like really high self-esteem can actually drop very, very low if something happens in his life. And there's like a huge letting out of the balloon, and he's like, very confused, like what happened? And any of you older guys will know what I'm talking about, is that you go through phases, you think that you're a certain way, and then all of a sudden something happens and everything changes, and you have to kind of go back to the building blocks to build it again, right? The first time you didn't have to build it because it happened naturally. What I'm talking about is going in and doing the mechanical lifting of helping your self-esteem, fixing your self-esteem, raising your self-esteem, and really getting control of your life. Because in the end, you want to have more conscious understanding and control of your value, the way that you think of yourself. You don't want to put that into other people's hands. It's a very dangerous thing. They can call it codependency. Is when you're saying, basically, I'm going to go and impress the world, and then their reaction to my action is going to give me self-esteem. And so that's one way to look at it. But there's so many different ways. So let's go into a couple things that I can give you an example that I think really helps guys. It really helps me. I'll tell you what it is. Okay, so here we go. So let's say that you feel at some level, okay, that everything, let's say when something happens, okay, so for example, you have an argument with your girlfriend, or your mom's angry, or something gets messed up at work, or something, and you suddenly have this feeling that it's kind of like you get on the defensive and you feel like it's all your fault, okay? It's all your fault. This is a feeling. This is not a logical thought. Okay, this is like, so you have to, if you want to raise your self-esteem, you have to be willing to lift the bricks, okay? And that's hard work. Okay, so what I'm talking about is hard work, because you have to go in and think, and you actually have to admit things and be honest with yourself. But I'm telling you, the benefit is absolutely humongous, because you start to get a conscious understanding of your mind and an ability to control your own mind, and that is a very, very powerful thing that most guys just do not have the guts, ability, willingness to go in. They just accept life however it is, and that's good enough. It's not good enough for me. No way. No freaking way. So let's say, okay, for example, you have this feeling in a certain circumstance that you just kind of like got this emotional feeling like, damn, I'm wrong. Like, what did I, how did this, let's say that it's a fight with somebody. Okay, so there's a disagreement, and your mind is telling you, like, you just see yourself. You're just looking at yourself like, I'm wrong. It's all my fault. If you have that feeling, okay, so everything that you do is wrong and bad in this situation, there's nothing on the other person. That's the weird thing about it. Your mind is telling you that it's all your fault. It's all, Now, of course, if you went and did something specifically, you threw a stick into someone's wheel of their bicycle and they crashed, that is all your fault. But that's not the way life is. With interactions with human beings and relationships, it's much more complex, right? some things are your fault, some things are not. You had a disagreement, they said something, you said something, and you both have a part. And this is the gray, the ability to think out of black and white thinking is probably one of the most powerful techniques, and one of the most dangerous things for guys is to get into all or nothing, black or white. The gray area is the difficult area for guys, right? So let's say that you think it's all your fault. How could you change that? How could you change that feeling? Now, of course, you can logically go in and destroy that. Okay, so you can go in and say, oh, wait a second. You could write it down like, oh, I said this, and then she said this, and that wasn't right, and then I said this, and then she said this. You can go in and do that, and that is a good logical thing to do. You should do that if you want to do this, if you want to get the it's all my fault out of your mind. But what's next? What is next? The next thing you need to do is you need something. Okay, that's the logical part, but there's a part of your brain, the hippocampus, the amygdala, there's a part of your brain that is just not logical. And that's why a lot of guys get stuck, because they say, well, I understand it, right, logically. But they don't completely destroy it. It keeps coming back, right? Why does it keep coming back? It's because you haven't destroyed the emotional part. So my Ronin patented idea is this. Okay, so you want to imagine yourself, you go to the TSA, okay? You go to the doctor, and there's a scanner, a full body X-ray. It could be an MRI if you're more, you want a more specific, in deep. I did an MRI on my knee, and it's amazing the quality and the detail that comes out in these things, right? So if you take an MRI, let's say you took an MRI of your whole body, okay, every single aspect. What part of your body, okay, what part of your body has the "it's all my fault" gene? Like, where is the organ? Where is the thing, that is different about me that makes things all my fault? It's humor, right? But it's good. It's good. Imagine that. Just look into that X-ray and say, which part of this man's body, which organ, where is the specific DNA? If you want to do DNA, you could do a DNA test too, check your DNA, and then say, which part of this individual human, think of yourself as a separate person, like your doctor now, what part of this person has the "it's all my fault" gene? And you say, well, nothing. This looks like a normal person who would be in normal situations where he would do something and other people would do something, and would be in complex relationships with his friends, his family, and with the world itself and the laws of physics and everything. He is a character in a play. He is part of a drama of life. And he does things and other people do things, right? The wind blows and then you kind of lean against it so that you don't fall over, right? There's always a reaction and the reaction to the action. Sorry. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Let's say that you think at some point, and this could be something you're thinking about when you're a kid, or when you're a child, or whatever, some fundamental deep thing, but you think that you feel at some level. Now again, the difficult part is this is not logical. So it's not like you're thinking this logically, okay? But this is an illogical thing. So you want to go into your logical mind. To fix your self-esteem, you got to go into the illogical mind, okay? So you say, let's say that in your mind, you feel that you're flawed. Okay? There's something wrong about you. There's something weak. There's kind of something beyond repair inside yourself, right? And there's something about you that's flawed. It's like this, it's something, what is it, right? Again, you want to say, okay, and you own it, right? Say, you know what, in this situation, I feel like I'm flawed. Like I just don't have the ability to love, or this or that. And then you say, okay, let's go back in the X-ray. Okay, you walk in the X-ray, MRI, DNA test, everything. And you say, where is the always bad part of your body? Which is it in the vertebrae? Is it in the blood? Is it in the DNA? Is it in your liver? Is it in your heart? Is it in your hippocampus? Is it in your amygdala? Where exactly is this flawed beyond repair, weak part? Where is that? Where specifically? Where could you make an argument or write a PhD or a master's thesis about this individual that you're looking at? Because now you're a doctor, you're outside yourself, and you're looking at yourself, and you're saying, what in this person could I prove scientifically so I could like present to a class or whatever? If something's true, it's very easy to present, right? Where in this person is this flawed part? This always, where is this? What is that, right? And you just see, and now in your mind, you see the X-ray, you see all the different parts of your body, you see the little lines that go between the bones, and then you see your whatever injury you had as a child, like for my knee, I would see my knee on my right knee all messed up. I'd say, I'm looking at myself now. I'm not talking theoretically, I'm talking really. You're looking at your own body under intense scrutiny. Let's say there's an MRI that's a new technology coming out in 10, 20 years. It goes down to the DNA level. It just absolutely dissects the human body completely. For once and for all, you can see everything. Now, what in that new type of MRI, that does everything, genetic testing, where is that part? Where is that always bad, flawed part, right? Okay, so here's another one. Okay, so you might feel, and I had all these, so every single one I'm talking from experience, so have you ever felt that you need input from others to make a decision? Now, I know logically you're like, no, I decide everything myself. I do it. I tell you, I was in a group once and I was posting about something and I was saying, how do you make, because I have a tendency to want, I am very open-minded, and I'm very open to change, you guys might have noticed this, right? This is one of my fundamental characteristics, right? And that has good and that also has bad. In the sense that sometimes I find myself kind of almost needing something from the outside to tell me that I'm right or that I should do something. Now again, this is not logical. This is not like I'm sitting here just trying to decide what to eat or something. This is coming up when I'm making a fundamental decision. Like a big thing in my life. Like when I'm making a big investment or something else. And my mind will be kind of like, I need to post this on Facebook. I need to ask my friends. Now, I think that part of myself, and I also do this in Ronin Man, is I will say ideas and I read all the comments unless I somehow miss them because of the algorithm. And I really do take very seriously and I really enjoy reading the input from you. I really value your input. I value you. And that's part of the reason why I do this, is because it's so valuable, the interaction that I get and the reaction and also the advice that I get. Hopefully I give a lot of good advice also to you. So it's a fair exchange, right? But yeah, so what in my, this is usually when you have this feeling, it's a result of gaslighting. So it's, you were emotionally manipulated by somebody where they fundamentally undermined your trust in your own judgment. Now I don't want to get into gaslighting too much, but emotional manipulation causes doubt and chaos in someone's mind. There's many reasons why somebody would be like this, but for myself, it would be because of gaslighting. And so, again, I need to think of myself. I need to, what I can do for this one is a little different than the X-ray, is just basically realize that fundamentally my brain, I guess I could go back in the x-ray and I could look at my brain and say, is this brain, now again, this is not logical, guys. This is not logical, but it helps you to change your life. So that's what's important. Okay. So I can go in there and look at, let's say I got a full MRI of my brain, and I say, what in that brain is different than another brain that makes this particular guy incapable of making his own decisions, Now, of course, again, you make a lot of decisions and I make a ton of decisions, but it's still there. There's this, for myself, there's still that time where I'm just like, I'm not sure I can trust. And this could also be memory, where you don't trust your memory. So for example, you go back and ask your brother and sister, what happened at this time and that time? Because there's some part of yourself that's like, I'm not sure I trust my own memory here. I'm not sure I trust my own judgment. So again, what you want to do is you need to make fun of this stuff, because you look at your brain and say, what part of this man's brain cannot be trusted, or he should not trust himself because of which exact little twist in that brain is different than another twist that makes this brain unable to trust itself or make a good decision. And you say, well, basically this brain looks like pretty much everybody else's brain. I mean, there's small differences, but most of the differences in your intelligence is in your environment, education, discipline, health, things you eat. And of course we all have brains, but humans are intelligent creatures, right? Even dogs are intelligent. I mean, dogs are freaking, if you have a dog, they're freaking intelligent, right? Don't doubt yourself that you're intelligent, right? Okay. So now there's this is another fundamental self-esteem, is, do you find yourself where you feel like you don't have kind of the right to have needs? A lot of men have this problem. A lot of men, because, like, for example, if you went to a counselor and they say, what do you need? Okay. What do you need? A lot of men have a very difficult time with that question. They're like, what do I need? And the guys are like, well, I just want a good life. I just want this. Women in counseling will come up with thousands or tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of things, okay, over a year that they need. They need this. They want this. They have this need. They want this. They want you to do this. They need more of this. They need more of that, but in this particular way. And they're going to tell what they need. Okay, now men can be in counseling, for example, for years, and finally the counselor looks at the person, and this actually happened to me, and said, you've been coming here, and you've never said one need. Like, everybody else here has tons of needs. Like, can't you express like one need, like human need that you have? Like, do you need something? Are you missing something? Is there something that you want? And I was like baffled. I was like, I felt embarrassed, because I all of a sudden I realized how like weird it was, that I had not verbalized anything. And I even when they said that to me, I couldn't even, like, at the time I couldn't think of anything. Like, I literally could not think of anything. Now the truth was, I was in a tough situation actually, and had tons of pain and tons of needs, okay? I could have listed a million things that were super, super serious, but I was not able to enunciate them, or just even admit that I had a need, that I have, like, my needs matter, right? And so this is how you fix this one. And this is a fundamental thing. A lot of guys have this problem. Is because guys think, well, if I have needs, okay, if I start to, list my needs, I'm going to become this very, the type of person I don't want to become as a man. Okay. Oh, like this is something that other people do. I am fine. I don't need anything. Right. But the truth is that we are all human. Okay. And we have tons of needs, tons of wants, tons of desires. And, especially you guys that are married, you guys in relationships, and single guys. I mean, every human being, we all have a lot of things that we're not happy with. We want to get this, we want to get that. Someone is deliberately not listening to us. Someone's giving us a silence. Someone's manipulating us in some way. We are somehow in some social situation not getting something done that we need done, and we need help for something, right? And to admit this type of stuff, that things are not going perfectly, is tough for guys. It's very tough for guys, because you got to take responsibility and say, wait a second, I need this. So this is one fundamental thing that a lot of guys, if you want to raise your self-esteem, you have to start to admit that you also have needs, okay? And it's true that with the things you want, they freaking matter. Now, if you were raised in a family, okay, now here's where this kind of thing starts, is a child, an infant is born in the world, and they are the center of the world. So in the crib, they're looking around, they're crying, they're moving their arms and legs, and from their perspective, everything is around them. Everybody's looking at them. The child is moving, and everybody's like giving him food or whatever. So the child is naturally the center of his own world, and that's how he sees the world, an infant. Now, as the child gets older, okay, and he starts to ask for things, or let's say, for example, here's a good example, is the child's now, let's say, and this is you when you're young, you come home from school in, say, third grade, and maybe you have hurt feelings because you like some girl in school and she didn't like you, or she did something to you, or you were embarrassed or whatever. So you had some embarrassing situation with some girl. I remember when I was in, I think it was fourth grade, I was in love with this Mexican girl, Eugenia Frisbee, man. I still remember her. And I was so in love with her. Oh, my God. She was the first girl I ever fell in love with. I was fourth grade, and I was so in love with Eugenia, man. Oh, man. And I don't remember. Actually, I think she kind of did like me. But other times, I had situations where, let's use another example, where I didn't get, okay, Carla Siska. Okay, Carla was a girl that I was in love with in high school. And I tried to talk to her, and it didn't work. Now, I was good at talking to girls that I wasn't in love with, but when I was in love with a girl, that would make me all blah, 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 right? So that was my difficulty with Carla. So I actually went to her house without calling or anything, knocked on the door. She came to the door and asked her to the prom, and I was a freshman and she was a senior. And, of course, she said no. I didn't even have a car yet. I had a scooter, right? Because a scooter you could have when you're 15, right? And I was like heartbroken, right? So now if I come home and I say, let's say, for example, it's better to think of an example when you're younger, okay? But the dynamics are the same. So I come home, and let's say Carla is when I'm young, okay? So I come home to my parents and I say, Carla doesn't like me. She doesn't want to go out with me. And then my parents, if they didn't listen to me, and they said, that doesn't matter. You're young. What are you talking about? Girlfriends, you're too young. What are you talking about? You're third grade, Wait till you get older. When you get older, you're going to have all kinds of problems. This is nothing. Oh, your first heartbreak. Oh, well, poor you. Whatever it is. If they don't listen to you, okay, and take your needs, wants, desires seriously, okay, they don't take you seriously, because you're expressing something, okay, you're expressing a pain and you have a need to talk about it. If your parent does not validate that and listen to that, then what happens is the child starts to look at the world differently. So the child says, Eugenia didn't like me, for example, and the bully wants to beat me up over marbles, and you come with your parents, they don't listen to you. They just blow it off like, hey, you're just a kid. It's no big deal. Just go to school. What the kid will do is the kid, again, as an infant, is born with himself as the center of the world. And that is a good thing. That is actually a very, very healthy part of the development of a child. And if that child's needs are not listened to by the parent, the child that starts to think to themselves, and this is what happened to me. The child says, wait a second, nobody's listening. Because you're feeling a lot of pain, okay? Ohania, I mean, I was in love with Ohania, man. There's no question about it. And I felt very strong emotions, even though I was super young. Like, I don't even feel those emotions now at 54. I never feel that way about a girl. But, man, I was in love with her, you know? And so my feelings were very real and very serious. And if somebody would have listened to me and said, hey, you know, how do you feel about that? You know, and then they say, yeah, I can understand that. It's funny how life is. You know, when I was in fourth grade, I felt, you know, here's what so I can understand how you feel. So what do you want to do? You know, how do you, and then the parent talks to the child and then kind of gets through the feeling, listens very closely to the story. And then the child says, hey, people listen to me. You know, my feelings are important. You know, and that gives a kid a healthy self-esteem, because then he also will start to say, well, probably other people have feelings, and he'll start to listen to them, right? You know, that creates a healthy child. When a child doesn't get that, what the child says is, okay, no one's listening to my pain, right? So the child says, well, I need to survive somehow in this family, so what am I going to do? I am going to not talk about how I feel. I'm going to see, for example, let's say the parent is running around unhappy with this, angry about that. The child will say, well, look, no one's going to tend to my needs and my wants, so I'm going to tend to their needs. Because basically the child needs the family to stay together. Otherwise, he doesn't get any food. So there's a fundamental bonding a child has with a parent, even if the parent is terribly abusive, because the child needs food. The child needs a place to sleep. The child needs the parent, no matter what. The child, you know, like historically, could not go wandering into the jungle. It needed protection. It needed food. It needed caring and nurturing. And then the child will say, I want to keep things good in the home, so I'm going to focus on my parents now. I'm going to listen to them, and I'm going to make sure they're happy so the family's happy, right? And then everything seems fine. The child shifted from I'm in pain, here's what I'm going through, to no one cares about that, no one's listening to that, so I want to have a good environment, right? You know, so I'm going to listen to other people and make sure I keep other people happy. Now, this is where it starts. This is where the final result of this is that the child, the adult, doesn't really know what he needs. He doesn't know what he really feels. It's never been important. And if your needs don't matter, what do? You basically stay quiet. You know, your needs don't matter. You know? So what you want to do is you want to question that. And again, this is a illogical, emotional, fundamental, deep BIOS type of thing. So it's not like you can just say, well, yeah, my needs matter. Of course they matter. Everybody's matter. You know, done. If it was that easy, it'd be, you know, you just raise it, you know, just read one blog post and your self-esteem's up and you're fine. You're done with that. Let's work on something else, right? But that's not how it works, right? So you have to kind of trick your mind. So what I would say is, I would ask myself, if I was a doctor looking at myself and you're a doctor looking at yourself, and you say, what in this individual, okay, this specimen I'm looking at, which part of this person's needs don't matter? Which specifically, what is it about this particular individual human being where his needs don't matter, what he wants doesn't matter? Where is that in this person? right? Who else is like this? Whenever you have one type of individual, like say you have a characteristic, right? You're going to find other people with that same characteristic. You'd say, okay, what part of this person, you're looking at the MRI of yourself, and you're saying, as a doctor looking at yourself, you're saying, or you're looking at the patient sitting down, which is yourself, and you say, this boy, this man here, what part of him is can I reliably say that his needs do not matter? And where can I extrapolate based on that and say, well, there's this other type of people who their needs don't matter, because we can see it in this particular specimen, in this person. So obviously this can be, characteristic of other people, right? So and you just start laughing. You start laughing at yourself. So take these, I would say, laugh at yourself and question these ideas. When you get a bad feeling about yourself, or you're all wrong, it's all you, whatever it is, go in there, question what that is. Think of the X-ray technique, the MRI, the DNA test, and then yourself as a doctor looking at yourself and saying, with this type of individual and this type of genetic malfunction, we can see this in other people. So let's go out and, because if anything applies to you, it applies to other people, right? So who are these other people that you can label that their needs do not matter, they're always wrong, they deserve to be dissatisfied all the time, like their judgment is always no good, it's always wrong, it's always their fault, their memory is not accurate of when they're children. I mean, of course, no children have perfect memory. We're children. We're developing our brain, right? So these characteristics are normal, but so it's a combination. You're basically taking your ideas about that make you feel bad. Okay, so the things that make you feel bad is the things you want to look at. The things you feel bad about yourself. That's the type of thing. It's a feeling. You feel bad about yourself. You feel you're wrong. Those are the things. And you want to go in there, and then you want to try to attack them from different angles. So humor, logic, metaphors, whatever it is. And then as you do this, it's almost like you're slowly, sometimes it just disappears right away. Because when you make fun of certain beliefs, they're just gone. So if you try this technique, I'd love to hear specifically. I just gave you a lot of examples. Every single example I just gave you is myself and are my own ideas, things that I thought about myself at some deep level, and that I have now taken out and logically put them on the table. Okay, like a rock that's sitting on the table in front of you, and I'm analyzing them, and I'm making fun of them. And that allowed me they immediately start to lose power. Those beliefs, they start to lose power. And anytime they come back, you can do it again, right? Come back and listen to this episode again. Work on them again. And eventually, you will start to realize a lot of other things. And I'm not going to say what you're going to realize, but I'd love to hear in the comments as you do this, what you do realize about yourself. All right, guys, I hope that's been helpful. I hope you guys have a good day. I'm going to hammer some yoga out here, and then do a call with Gabriel, one of the guys in Unblackmailable. So hope you guys have a good day, and talk to you soon.